Hello. It's 10 minutes after noon on May 2nd, 2021. When I woke this morning, there was a news article that was discussing how the president of El Salvador had, with the legislature, dismissed the highest court in the country. The judges of the highest court had been relieved, they had been removed from their post. I'm not a judge, but I know in the United States there are some judicial appointments that have to be confirmed before the legislature. There are other judgeships that one is elected into. And I have had need myself within the United States to seek some sort of response to what I understand are improprieties regarding people in the position of judge, and then the question of, well, what is an appropriate check against abuse of the judicial branch of government, especially considering that a lot of what I believe and contend the abuse of the judicial branch is attempting to avoid actually getting to the merits of a case, while there is inappropriate efforts at what could amount to, and in some cases do amount to, kickbacks in the form of jurisdictional arguments or certain kinds of procedural errors that are identified instead of pursuing another course of action in understanding that appropriate procedure has actually been invoked and that there is actually a legitimate justification for the jurisdiction within which it was originally filed to proceed. And hence, what ends up accumulating or aggregating is the denial of justice for the actual case itself. What is the appropriate remedy for this? Now, dealing with things in a particular country or particular state, or even more and more a municipality, even, is a very important matter. But then so is the matter of collegiality and professionalism and what it means to be in one branch of government versus another. Now, I'm not a judge. I've never been elected to a judgeship. I've never sought one out myself. But I have been in a situation where I've had to take into consideration questions of collegiality and a potential impugnment of my character for making bad judgment calls, or perhaps not have reflected in the actual official record a understanding of facts as they were at the moment that could themselves have a accrual that could have consequences for others that would have been my colleagues. And so the question then becomes one of, well, what would be an appropriate check against that? So I'm not a judge. But if I were, I would support the decision that was made by the president and the legislature in El Salvador. I would support this. Because if those judges are actually qualified to do what they're doing, then they shouldn't have a problem being able to reestablish the credibility necessary in order to secure faith in them and their performance for the people. Things happen. Mistakes get made. Sometimes you're attempted for enticement into crime or abuse of your position. Some people step down. Some people leave the building. Some people don't take the check. Some people do. If that's at the heart of what's going on now, then that's something that hopefully an appropriate check against imbalance can be provided for there. But it's actually very important because I'm now in the United States dealing with an understanding that in my own efforts, representing myself pro se, but also understanding that I'm not just representing myself pro se, that the denial of my rights to due process through a representative government, including a representative government that for whom one of the branches is the judicial branch of government, meaning it's also a representative government, meaning that members of a jury are representatives of the people, meaning that prosecutors are representatives of the people, meaning that defense attorneys are representatives of the people, and meaning that judges are representatives of the people, says something very profound when in every single case I am compelled to move forward pro se, which has been the case so far. And insofar as that's the case, I'm not the judge in my own case, but insofar as I may have been in a position to adjudicate or deliver an opinion myself based upon the performance of other people and the merits related to their matter, the inability thus far for me to be able to effectively remonstrate for an application of an internal control that would prevent against others of me, my colleagues, abusing the system and hence denying justice would necessitate an appropriate check from another branch. And so, if it were to be determined that both the president and the legislature supported the judicial branch of government having to go through a process of recomposition and potentially reapplication for candidates and reassignment of positions, then I would have to say I support that. And it's actually a welcome change. If it's actually something that's meant to be for those people, then they can go through the process just like they would expect anybody that came before them in their court of law to do. That's all I can say. I do not mean to interfere in a foreign country's affairs. On another level, today is the day before a 10-day deadline regarding matters related to people that would be from other countries expecting to get acknowledgement for their role as a diplomat or an emissary from those other countries within the United States before they're expected to be back in their own country. But in this particular matter, I'm acknowledging that this is an understanding I have of the situation now. And if I had to acknowledge it as somebody else's reflection of my request, then I just want to say I thank you for doing your job. And I will continue to do mine in the manner it is presented as being necessary.